Have you ever wondered how these massive AI models that are everywhere are actually, built? It's not some kind of magic. It's an incredible feat of engineering. So let's dive into the blueprint for creating a foundation model, right from the ground up.
Yeah, that's really the big question, isn't it? We're not just talking about writing some code. We're talking about creating a system that can actually learn, that can generalize what it knows, and then specialize in all sorts of different tasks. And in this explainer, we're going to walk through exactly how that gets done. So here's our game plan. We'll start with the big picture, the blueprint itself. Then we'll zoom in on how to build that first generalist model. After that, we'll get into the super important balancing act of training, see how that generalist becomes a specialist, and finally, follow the model's journey from the lab out into the wild, which you'll see kicks off a never-ending cycle of improvement. At its core, this whole process is really a clear 7-stage journey. Think of it like the master plan, the step-by-step guide for taking a model from just an idea to a tool that's always getting smarter. And here they are, those 7 stages. It all kicks off with picking your data and your model. Then comes the heavy lifting, pre-training, and fine-tuning. And from there, it's into the real world with evaluation, deployment, and feedback. But here's the kicker. This isn't a straight line. That last stage, number 7, feedback, it loops right back to the beginning. All right, let's dig into that first major phase. The goal here isn't to create an expert on some tiny little topic. Nope. It's to build a broad, knowledgeable generalist. This is the solid foundation that everything else is going to be built on top of. These first 3 steps, they really work together like a team to create that foundation. It all starts with data selection. Because, let's be real, a model is only as smart as the data it learns from. Next up, model selection, which is where you pick the right kind of brain for the job, like a transformer for text or a diffusion model for images. And finally, pre-training. This is where the model just chows down on huge amounts of general data, learning the basic patterns and rules of our world. Okay, so that pre-training step, it's absolutely crucial. But it's also this incredibly delicate balancing act. You can't just throw a mountain of data at a model and cross your fingers. How you train it is every bit as important as what you train it on. Now, to really get this, you have to know a key term, epoch. An epoch is super simple. It's just one full round of training where the model sees every single piece of data in its training set one time. The number of epochs is like a critical dial you have to tune just right to control how much the model learns. And this is why it's a balancing act. You've got to find the perfect number of epochs. Too few and the model underfits. I love this analogy. It's like understudying for a test. You barely skim the book, you miss all the important stuff, and you totally bomb the exam. But if you have too many epochs, the model overfits. This is like overstudying. You've just memorized the textbook word for word. You can recite it perfectly, but the second you get a question you've never seen before, you're lost. The magic is right there in the middle. Okay, so now we have our generalist model. It knows a little bit about a lot of stuff. But what if we needed to do one specific job and do it exceptionally well? Well, that's when we enter the refinement phase. The secret sauce here is a process called fine-tuning. Basically, you take your powerful pre-trained generalist and you train it just a little bit more. But this time, you use a much smaller, super specialized data set. This process sharpens its broad knowledge and optimizes it for one particular job. And here's a perfect real-world example. Let's say you have a general language model. You want it to understand customer feedback. So what do? You fine-tune it on a data set of reviews that are already labeled positive, neutral, or negative. After this focused training, boom, the model becomes an expert at classifying the sentiment of new reviews it's never seen. It has become a specialist. So, our specialist model is ready to go. It's been pre-trained, it's been fine-tuned. Now it's time for the real test, getting it out of the lab and into the real world. This is where the rubber meets the road. This happens in 3 steps. First up, evaluation, where we put the model through its paces to make sure it's actually good. Second is deployment, which is just the fancy word for putting it into production so people can actually use it. And third, and this is the part that changes the whole game, feedback. We watch how the model does out in the wild, collecting data on what it gets right and what it gets wrong. The model's live, people are using it, the feedback's coming in. So that's it, right? Job done? We can all pack it up and go home? Well, not so fast. Because that final step, feedback, it isn't an ending at all. It's actually the beginning of the most powerful part of this entire blueprint, the continuous, never-ending cycle of improvement. Right. All that data we collect from real-world use, mistakes, the new things people try, the unexpected successes, all of that becomes the fuel for the next version. That feedback tells us exactly how to do the next round of fine-tuning, what new data we need, making the models smarter and more useful over time. The whole process just starts all over again, but this time, it's better. The source material really nails it with this quote. The Foundation Model Lifecycle is a systematic process that starts with data selection and ends with feedback. The model is refined continuously. That last part is everything. It's refined continuously. A model is never really done. So after walking through this whole thing, from the very first piece of data to that endless feedback loop, what's the one thing you should really take away from all this? It's this, right here. Getting a model out into the world isn't the finish line, it's the starting gun. It marks the beginning of its real journey of learning and improving. The true power of these models isn't just what they know on day one, but their incredible capacity to evolve forever.